enthusiasts how to train smart and not just hard. And today we're talking about MMA weight cutting issues and what I think is the solution to all the problems that are connected to MMA weight cutting. Now, this is also my first live stream, and I'm doing it through my front-facing camera on my phone. And in the future, it's going to be better. This is not an ideal setup, and I'll have to purchase some hardware to make it better. But for now, we'll do it like this. So, welcome to the live stream. And today, as I said, we're talking about weight cutting. Now, there has been Hi Keshev Tak. Thank you very much. And please, thank you very much. Please feel free to comment and ask me whatever you want to ask me. There's a subject to this video, of course, weight cutting issues, but you can ask me anything and we can talk about it. So you've seen, if you watched the latest UFC 225, Yoel Romero missed weight again. He missed weight when he fought Luke Rockhold, and he missed weight now. But there was some issue. Maybe the commission didn't allow him 2 hours more, which is the rule. But nevertheless, he missed weight. He probably would have made weight if they didn't shorten the time, which was highly unusual. But the problem remains. Many fighters tend not to make weight, and then you end up with a fight that's not in the weight category, in the weight class that it was supposed to be. Like this one. This was a title fight between Robert Whittaker and Yoel Romero, and then it wasn't a title fight. And what would happen if Yoel Romero would have won? Which many people think he did. They did win. I also think he won, or at least it was a draw, but that's besides the point. What would happen if he won and it's not a title fight? It's a really tough situation. So we need to have a solution for this. And I'm going to give you what I think is the solution. A few of them, actually. But before that, I wanted to tell you that the way everything is set up, the way it's set up in the UFC is totally wrong, in my opinion. They allow fighters more than 24 hours to recover before the fight. So they weigh in a day before in the morning, and they fight a day after in the evening. So it's more than 24 hours. And you know, the intention is good. They want to allow fighters more time to recover. But what ends up happening is that the fighters, cut weight too much. They suck the water out of their organism. You know, their brain becomes waterless as well, and then they make it all up. They used to put IVs in. So a good intention from the UFC and the other organizers is actually not helping fighters. It's making it worse. Now, there are sports that have solved this issue completely, like judo, wrestling, and BJJ, where weighing, for example, judo, the sport where I come from, the weighing is done 2 hours before the start of the event. So you have at least 2 hours, if not more, if you're a higher weight class that start fighting after the lower weight classes. You have more than 2 hours to recover from weighing. So you cannot cut an extreme amount of weight and you cannot recover an extreme amount of weight, which is the case in MMA. I'm not so sure about wrestling, how many hours or when do they weigh in exactly. I think it's also 2 hours, but don't quote me on this. But in BJJ, it's even more extreme. In BJJ, you weigh in before the match. You weigh in your gi, not in your underwear. You weigh in your gi right before your match. So you need to have weight like a minute before the match. So that's maybe too extreme, but that's how they do it. And there is no problem with this. Everybody makes weight in those three sports. Everybody. You know what happens if you don't make weight in those sports? You don't fight. That's right, you don't fight. But in MMA, you get to fight, in professional MMA. And why is it like that? Because UFC is all about the money. I'm talking primarily about the UFC now. UFC is, you know, they have the greatest fighters in the world and everything, but it's mostly about the money. They want to make money, and if they were to, hello Alejandro, hi, thank you. If they were to, not postpone, if they were to, you know, delete that fight completely from the fight card, then they would not make money, and they have invested a lot of money into promotion. Okay, fuck me, why? Why do you say this? So they would, there was a comment that told me to not fuck off, he told me to fuck you, okay. Okay, care to explain? So, where were we? Yeah, if they were to cut the event entirely, that would make them lose money, and the spectators would not be pleased. But I think you have to do this. I know it was not you, Alejandro. So the solution, I will tell you, I think there are many solutions, but one of the solutions is to make the weigh-in 2 hours before the event, so they cannot cut a lot of weight. 2 hours before the event, and that's it. 3 hours before the event, that's okay. But that's it, no more than that. Another solution, and everybody would jump the weight class. There would, you know, Georges St. Pierre wouldn't be fighting in 170, he would be fighting 185, and so on. Everybody would move one weight class up. Before I give you another solution, let me go back to the UFC spending a lot of money on promotion. So they have those, you know, kind of like blogs. What do they call them? MMA, UFC Embedded, I think. You know, they have their video production teams going all over the world. Okay, we'll discuss that. Okay, we'll discuss this later. They spend a lot of money with their production team going all over the world and shooting the life of fighters, which is great and it's entertaining. They spend a lot of money promoting fighters, you know, bringing them to some shows, popular shows and whatnot. So a lot of money has been spent, and if that fight would have been deleted from the fight card, that would be a problem for them because they cannot deliver what they promised. And I understand that, I really do. But what ends up happening is that fighters tend not to be that disciplined because they know they're going to fight anyway. Even if they don't, you know, make weight, they're going to fight anyway. They're going to lose some of their purse, some of their fight money that is going to go to their opponent, but they're still going to fight. So what happened? Yoel Romero defeated Luke Rockhold and became a contender to the title again, even though he did not fight in his weight class. So he didn't make weight, but he still was considered, it was considered as if he did make weight. So I think this was really unfair to Luke Rockhold. Now, then again, he didn't make weight for the title fight. What's that girl's name? That girl's name from world champion in BJJ. She fought in the previous event, I think, and can you remind me what was her name? She knocked out a boxer, but she was so much more, she weighed in so much more than her opponent. It was not like 1 or 2 pounds, it was a lot more. So this was highly unprofessional too. So that was not really fair. Mackenzie Dern, thank you, Clayton. Yes, that's it. So what's the solution? What's the solution again? One of them I already told you. It's to make weighing before 2 hours or 3 hours before the event. Another solution is to give only 2 chances to the fighter. If they don't make weight once, first of all, they don't fight. If they don't make weight, they don't fight. That's it. If you only did this, you may be sacrificing 1 or 2 or 3 events before the fighters take this really seriously, before they see that, oh my God, you know, Dana White is really serious about this. We're not going to fight. We better make weight. So if you do that, if you sacrifice a few events, maybe some fighters would not, you know, believe it immediately, but they would have to, they would have to live it. They would have to feel what it's like when they don't make weight, when they're cut from the event. Then that would be different. And I would give them 2 chances. One chance, if you don't make weight, you're cut from the event, no fight money, no show money, nothing, no fighting, whatsoever. If they don't make weight again, for the second time, they're cut from the UFC for a certain period of time. That's it. Implement those 2, and and the issue is done. There will be no more weight cutting issues. As I told you, everybody makes weight in judo and wrestling and BJJ. What would you think would happen to an Olympian, a wrestling Olympian, or a judo Olympian going to the Olympic Games or World Championships, and they don't make weight? They wouldn't fight in those competitions. And then their sport alliances, like the National Wrestling Alliance or National Judo Alliance, what do you think would be their reaction afterwards? Would they ever bring them to compete again? Highly unlikely. Maybe they would if they had a really good chance for missing weight. Maybe they were sick or something. So, okay, Benzen says, I agree with the judo and wrestling style weigh-ins. After all, this isn't supposed to be ultimate weight cutting championships. Exactly. It's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be all about fighting, but unfortunately, it's not. MMA is dangerous as it is. You don't need to make it even more dangerous by fighters, drying themselves to the bone. And we had a few instances of fighters dying because of weight cuts. So this is not really healthy. And I guess brain damage. I'm not a doctor. I don't know, but if you receive brain damage with a dehydrated brain, that's probably even worse than getting knocked out with properly hydrated. So I'm only guessing, but it's certainly not better. It can only be worse or the same. So that would happen, as I said. That's what would happen if any of the wrestlers or judokas missed weight in major events. No more competition for them. They would not be taken anywhere. So we should ask Yoel Romero, has he ever missed weight during his wrestling events? I don't think so. He always was, he always had his weight down to a T. But not in the UFC, because he knows he can sometimes get away with it. And he did get away with it. This last time, I have to admit, what the commission did was highly suspicious. They gave him 2 hours more to make weight. He rested for 45 minutes. Then they told him, no more time. You weigh in now, which was highly suspicious and highly irregular. I hope they get to the bottom of this, because first he was wrong there and in the fight. I think he won over Robert Whittaker 46-45. It was a really close fight. Maybe it was a draw, but that's besides the point. It doesn't matter now. Here's another solution. If you heard about how ONE FC solved this issue, it's brilliant. First, I heard it from Ben Askren talking about it on Joe Rogan's podcast, and it's brilliant. What ONE FC did is they take urine samples from fighters during the whole fight week. And if the fighter is dehydrated, it shows up in the urine test. I cannot go into details. I don't know exactly what they're looking for, but all I know that the urine test shows if you're dehydrated or not. So if the urine tests show you are dehydrated, you don't get to fight. That's it. And they even have some kind of a smart move. If a fighter is overweight a little bit, they can negotiate the catch weight. But only if the fighter is 105% of a weight of his opponent, not more. Then they can negotiate the catch weight. If he's more, no fighting. So that's beautiful. And what ends up happening is, how do I find my first MMA fight in a place like Los Angeles? Oh, well, you gotta, Keshev Tak asked that. Well, you gotta go to some club in LA, or you need to start training. I don't know if you're training MMA in the US, or if you're somewhere, if you're maybe from another country, I'm not sure. but you need to have connections in the US, or you need to start training in the US, and then you might be able to find a fight in LA. Have I seen the extreme struggles of Darren Till, how he made weight? I've been told about this, and yeah, it's pretty extreme. I haven't seen it. I've just seen the picture of him in the sauna, lying down. I train. I'll get to you later, Keshav, talk about that issue. Let me just answer Danny about Darren Till. Do you really think that Darren Till should be fighting in 170? He's too big. He's really too big. I mean, he's not cheating the system. The rules are what they are. If he can cut weight and make weight, then that's fine. You know, that's the rules, and everybody abides by them. But I think it's wrong on men. You know, some people can, some people don't suffer as much during the weight cut. Some people suffer less. It all depends. You know, some people can return, get their water back more quickly and easily. I think fighting should be about fighting, and fighters should not deal with too much weight cuts. And yeah, it's dangerous, as I told you. It's dangerous during the fight, and it's dangerous during the weight cut as well. Regarding your question, Keshav Tak, well, as I said, you have to start training. You train Muay Thai, if I'm correct. You have to. What did you mean? Can you? Ah, okay, I see. You train Muay Thai and BJJ. You have to train MMA as well. Muay Thai and BJJ are not MMA. They're good for MMA, but you need to train MMA. You have to take pure MMA classes to learn how to connect the elements. So BJJ and Muay Thai are parts of MMA, but if you don't train MMA, like if you don't train pure MMA classes, you will not know how to connect them. And you will go like there will be a pause between, oh, I'm striking, oh, now I'm in the clinch, oh, now I'm on the ground. There will be pauses in your brain. You need to know how to connect this, so everything is like a one fluid move. You go from striking to wrestling to takedowns to getting up to triangles, submissions and everything. That's what you need to do. You need to go to an MMA gym. So back to Darren Till, and no, I think I've answered about Darren Till. Back to 1FC. No problem. So 1FC did it really they have a really nice solution, very elegant solution, and I'm surprised why UFC don't do the same thing. Are they like? Is it an? Now, what is my number one rule for starting MMA training? Can you be a bit more specific, and I'll answer it. I'm not sure why UFC doesn't implement this 1FC strategy. Maybe it's the ego thing. We're not going to do what the smaller promotion does. We're too big. We'll find our own solution. I'm not sure if that's their rationale. I'm not sure, but I think this would solve a lot of problems. A lot of problems. So I gave you a few solutions. One is to move the weight cut 2 or 3 hours before the event. Another is to be more strict with fighters, to cancel their fights entirely. Your weight is not on point, you're not fighting. Second time your weight is not on point, you're not in the UFC anymore. That's it. That would solve the issues. Then you can also do what 1FC does, or combine these elements, and really this is unhealthy. So I had a question. About what is my number one rule for MMA training. Well, I have many. I wouldn't say rules, because rules imply that something must be done that way. I prefer the word. What's the word? English is my second language. Sorry, I sometimes lose the word in my mind. I know it in Serbian, I don't know it in English right now. Well, I have suggestions. That's not the perfect word, but I have suggestions. I might sometimes call them rules, but I have suggestions. And one of the most important suggestion is to have an open mind. to have an open mind. But this is not so good for the beginner, like immediately for the beginner. The best rule I can give a beginner is to follow what the coach is saying without a doubt, without a shred of a doubt. Coaches say, if the coach says push-ups, you do push-ups. You don't doubt him. Why are we doing push-ups? No, push-ups. The coach says 1,000 push-ups, you do 1,000 push-ups. That's it. Because you might not end up with a proper coach at in your first go. But if you start doubting from day one what you're doing is, if what you're doing is good, if what your coach is giving you is good, if that's a good training, you're not going to go anywhere. What you need to be doing is listening to your coach. The word disciple has in its roots discipline. So if you want to be a good disciple, you need to have discipline to listen and to do what your coach is telling you. Then the progress will come. Does this mean your coach is always right and whatever he gives you to do, whatever technique he teaches you will be right for you? No, it does not. No coach is ever right. I know I'm not right 100% of the time, or better yet, I'm not right for a specific person 100% of the time. Your coach is going to show you techniques, but not all techniques will suit your body type, your mentality, your personality. Many of them do, many of them won't. But what you can do, the best thing you can do is to listen to your coach and do as he says, to a T. Then later you can add more rules or suggestions, like having an open mind, not going for the knockouts in sparring, and so on and so on. Do I think MMA weight cutting classes should be changed? I don't think that's the solution if they change weight classes. People, even if they change weight classes for add 10 pounds, okay, no problem. Gaetano, no problem. So even if they, I'm answering this to Danny, even if they now 155 becomes 165, those guys are, they're still going to cut a lot of weight. I don't think nothing is gonna. It's not gonna change anything. They're gonna still be cutting for a lesser weight class. So no. What is MMA fighter's favorite part of a joke? The punchline. Good. Who is the best MMA coach in Serbia? That's a loaded question. So there are good coaches. I'm not the only MMA coach in Serbia. There are a few really good coaches in Serbia. So there are, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 good coaches in Serbia, and maybe I would not be so modest if I said that I belong to those 3 or 4. Any more questions, guys? Any more questions before I wrap this up? And if you have any other questions, please leave them down in the comments. So I hope you like this video, and I will be streaming live again, perhaps with better hardware from my camera, not from my phone in the future. So, who is my favorite fighter at the moment? Georges St. Pierre. Georges St. Pierre is my favorite fighter at the moment. And I'll probably do a video on him once and tell you why I'm so fascinated by this guy. Conor Khabib, who wins and how? Oh, that's tough. If it goes to the ground, Khabib. If Conor manages to stay on his feet, he's gonna light the fire on Khabib's chin. Do you like Kesagatame in MMA? No, I don't. I don't, but I know people do it very well. Some people do it very well. I don't do it it was not my favorite pin in judo, but I'll answer it again. I didn't see, let me see the questions if I can see them again. No. Okay, can you, yeah, Yoel Romero should probably go to light heavyweight. And to answer Kesagatame, I don't like Kesagatame because I don't have an underhook. And if I don't have an underhook, my back can be taken. Ronda Rousey made it work, Kesagatame. Josh Barnett makes it work. There are people that make it work. There's this Russian guy, what's his name? He lived in Ukraine originally. I forgot his name, doesn't matter. A heavyweight guy in the UFC. He does Kesagatame as well. He's really good at it. There are some people that are good at it. You have submissions from Kesagatame. I prefer the underhook, I prefer side control, and I already covered in one of my videos why I think side control is the best position for ground and pound in MMA. Alexei Olenek, that's right, Benzen. 10 points for you. He does it as well, exactly. So yeah, side control is a way to go. But I'm open-minded. People can win fights with Kesagatame. This is not my specialty, nor it was my special... I didn't do it very well when I practiced judo. I always got escaped from it. People escaped my Kesagatame, but my side control is much better. Do I think Vasily Lomachenko is the best of all times in terms of a gifted fighter? Well, this is now a boxing question. Now, I'm not sure if he's so gifted or his father, prescribed a regimen for him. It's tough to tell. He probably is talented, but what you have there is, he has been guided since childhood, maybe even before he was conceived. I've heard his father. His father was asked, "When did you know your son will be a champion?" And he said, "Before he was conceived." So he already had everything planned out for his son if he gets a son. So yeah, that's a fascinating story how he made him. At one point, I don't know if he was 7, or 11. He already trained. Vasily already trained boxing for a few years, I think 4 years. And his father told him, "Oh, do you want to be a fighter?" He said, "Yeah." Then do Ukrainian national dancing for, I don't know, 4 years or something. So he did it. So he completely stopped doing boxing and started dancing this Ukrainian national dance, so he can develop his footwork, which was amazing. And you can see his footwork now. His father was right. I don't know how he knew this, how he knew that it will benefit his boxing. So to answer your question, I'm not sure about the talent thing. Maybe he's talented. Maybe he just worked really hard and really smart, under the guidance of his father. So he uses some very unusual methods of training. And yeah, he's amazing. He's amazing. I did not see the last questions, and I'm not sure if I can, unless somebody gives me the question again. Let me see. What do I think is best physical training for MMA in your experience? Gymnastics like GSP, plyometrics like Dos Anjos. It's a hard question. The jury is still out on this. I think George St. Pierre has something, I think he's onto something about gymnastics. When I was a kid, I saw kids that were gymnasts that were so much more developed than the rest of us kids. So right now I have 2 sons, and one of them is 5. The oldest is 5. I take him to gymnastics. It's still like very light gymnastics, more like, we call it the school of sports. They learn like basic stuff, forward roll, backward roll, climbing on ladders and stuff like this. But it's slowly but surely, and they're doing push-ups, sit-ups, as much as they can. They're children, of course. And I personally think the same thing as GSP. Our opinion, is very similar in many aspects, and one of those aspects is gymnastics. Gymnastics is the gymnasts are the most, powerful and I wouldn't say endurable, but most powerful athletes, definitely. They not only powerful, but gymnasts can do anything, because gymnastics is so hard and so demanding. Everything, everything else, motorically is not so hard to do after you master gymnastics. Like if you can do a somersault, forward, backward rolls, all the gymnast moves, or most of them. What is a high kick compared to that? Nothing. You're gonna pick it up like this easily. So gymnastics is good, but I cover this in one of my videos. To be physically prepared for MMA it's not so much about what kind of physical exercise you do. It's about how efficient you are. And becoming efficient in MMA is all about having enough mat time, having drilled techniques enough, drilling. Have you heard about the expression, drillers are killers? That's it. If you drill enough, your body learns how to, and I talked about this in one of my videos about the conditioning. If you know how to, if you drilled enough, if you spent a lot of time on the mat, drilling techniques, sparring, doing flow sparrings, your body will learn how to relax and when to relax. And this is more important than having, ran I don't know how many kilometers or lifted how many weights, which is great, and you should be doing this under the supervision of a professional. But if you must choose between the two, this is an extreme example. Most pro fighters have time to do both the conditioning and the technical training. But if you don't have the time, always go for drilling. Always go for technical and fighting training as opposed to conditioning, because it will give you the most bang for the buck. And I've talked about this a lot of times. If you know when to relax, when to contract your muscles, you will save energy. Fighting is about economy of movement. If you don't have the economy of movement, if you use your gas tank very fast, you will not be able to last long in a fight. But if you can fight relaxed, if you can only use muscle when you need to use the muscles, that's a different thing. So yeah, that's my answer to you. And also, you have genetics. So a guy like Georges St. Pierre has, and he's measured this, he has a very high VO2 max, which means his muscles are very endurable. He's also fast, which is quite rare to be very fast and endurable, but genetically has much more endurance than the regular person or a regular fighter. On the other hand, you see a guy like Tyron Woodley. He's very strong, very explosive, but not very endurable. And he can improve this with training, but he cannot improve it, as much as Georges St. Pierre. Never, because the genes don't allow him to do this. I had a fighter once that he was a good fighter and strong and everything, technique was good, but he had a really and I've seen this many times. He had very poor endurance, which we did improve, but I couldn't improve it to a level that he can do all 3 rounds and be dominant. I just couldn't do it. So maybe that was my mistake as a coach. Maybe I made some mistakes. That might be the case, but I tend to recognize those things because I've been in sports way too long. I recognize them almost immediately, who is genetically gifted for certain things. I recognize fast people, I recognize endurable people, I recognize some sorts of people in between. So yeah, that's my opinion on conditioning in MMA. And I had a question about Gokhan Saki, what I think about him. Yeah, he's an animal, and when it comes to kickboxing, and he did a very good fight, a good MMA fight. He had a very good MMA fight, and I just thought about him the other day. I don't know, do you guys know, is he fighting soon again in the UFC, or was that a one-time deal? I would like to know this. I'm looking forward to watching him in the UFC again. But I think it would be a mistake to give him someone that's, maybe in the top 5 or top 10. He's fighting in July. Great. Who is he fighting? You know who is he fighting? And I had a question. What do I think about Kim Dong-hyun, welterweight in the UFC? I have to say that I haven't seen his fight. Is that the guy? Please excuse me. Is that who did he fight recently? Is that the guy that Colby Covington defeated? I heard that Colby defeated a Korean guy. I think that's him, but I haven't seen him fight. So, yeah, Colby Covington defeated him. I haven't seen his fights. UFC organizes so many fights. I miss so many fights from the UFC. I tend to watch what's interesting to me, and I miss out on many great fights because, you know, there are up-and-comers that are really good and I haven't heard about them before, and I have limited time. I have, you know, family life, I make videos on YouTube, I coach in my academy, so I sometimes don't get to watch all the fights. So, okay guys, if you have any other questions, hit me up in the comments below, and let me use do you think savate is useful? Again, okay, quick question. Do I think savate is useful in MMA? Well, there are some savate techniques that are used. Robert Whittaker used the oblique kick, which is used very frequently savate. He used the oblique kick and the side kick to the knee against Yoel Romero, and yeah, it's quite that part is quite useful. I haven't trained savate, I haven't watched a lot of it, but it's very similar to kickboxing. I had a question. What do I think about Ivan Đorđević Icko as a coach? That's a Serbian coach in one of the Serbian clubs. I've trained with Ivan when I was a competitor. Ivan back then he was not a MMA coach. He was just a wrestler that trained wrestling, and he was a very good training partner for me. We wrestled. I was heavier than him, but he was very, very technical, and I really liked wrestling with him because it was technical. We could, you know, scramble, do very, you know, we didn't go like super hard because he was, you know, he was much more lighter than me. But I really benefited from training with him, from his technicality, and I really liked wrestling with him. So yeah, as far as wrestling is concerned, I wrestled with him and I benefited. Now I have never seen him coach. I know he has good competitors, which is something, as you know, which shows you something. He has good competitors, and yeah, he is considered as a good coach here in Serbia. More questions? I haven't seen the last one. Just a sec. Who do you think will win, Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier? Oh, okay, Clayton. Tough one to answer. I would give an edge to Stipe, but would not be surprised if Daniel won. I would not be surprised at all. I would give an edge to Stipe, and you see this guy, no, not this guy, Cormier. Cormier used to be a heavyweight, a proper heavyweight. If you've seen his fights, he launched Josh Barnett up in the air like he was nothing, like he was a child. So he's used to fighting heavyweights, and he trained with Cain Velasquez. Can he defeat Miocic? I'm not sure. Miocic is an animal, and you know, we'll see. We'll see. I would give a slight edge to Miocic. Let's leave it at that. Another question. What should I do if I'm starting at MMA? I like by this sometimes. I think that's a hard man. I'm not sure what you're asking me, Carlos. Can you ask again, please? I didn't understand the question. Danny, what do you think about the problem of concussions caused in hard sparring rounds in the gym? What frequency would you recommend for hard sparring in MMA? I'm going to do a proper video about this and explain my rationale. This is a subject I'm really passionate about. I've been doing soft MMA sparring since forever, when it was not cool. The reason for this is because you get concussed. It's not about who's going to win in the gym. It's about longevity and you winning in the octagon. That's where if you're going to get injured somewhere, you better get injured in the octagon. You better get a concussion in the octagon, not in the gym. So MMA is a very, it's a tough sport. You get knocked out, the thing about MMA, they call it mixed martial arts, which it is, but you get the mix of injuries. You get the worst of everything. You get concussions from striking sports, but you also get shoulder, knees, neck injuries from grappling sports. So it's tough. It's mixed martial injuries, I call it. So what do I mean by soft sparring? If you saw how it looks, you wouldn't think it's soft. But when I say soft, I mean don't go and knock your partner out. For many reasons. First of all, it's not cool. Second of all, the second of all is the utility reason. You're not gonna have your partner in the next training if you knock him out. Maybe he'll stop training for a couple of months or forever. But first of all, it's not cool. It's not right to knock someone out if you can, unless it's a fight or unless you do, you agree in sparring. But again, it's counterproductive. What you want to be doing in training, you want to be practicing your skill. The goal is your competitive performance. That's the goal. Your goal is not to knock someone out, to be, an alpha guy in the gym, if you can call it like that. You want to be improving. How do you improve? Many ways. Of course, there are many ways. One of the ways is to try out in sparring what you will be doing in competition, but not to the full extent. So spar very hard, I'll tell you how we spar in my academy. We go 100% of speed. We do 100% of speed of punches, but we don't go 100% of power. We sometimes barely touch the faces. Like it looks like point fighting. To the body, sometimes we go harder to the body with the hand. You have to be careful with the knees. Knees can really damage, the body. And this is a difficult, not a difficult subject. It's a subject for a separate video where I will tell you how to use the knees, how to use the kicks, how to elevate your sparring level. If you saw one of my students or me sparring, you would think that we're going all out, but we're not. We haven't had a knockout, I don't know in how many years. So 10%, 20 tops to the head, but I usually do 10%, 5 to 10% of power to the head, but 100% speed, which is difficult to do because if you think about it, you are punching someone really fast and you have to stop the punch, which is harder. It's much easier on your body to just let go of let the punch go. That's easier. The hard thing is to control it, and we're working on it. We're always working on it, but we practice it so we don't injure ourselves. Does it mean that knockouts sometimes don't happen? They do. They really do happen, but not as much. The most injuries we had was from falling body weight, as John Danaher explained in Joe Rogan's podcast. Wrestling is the cause of most injuries because people usually don't know how to fall down properly. And even if you're a wrestler or judoka, if you train break falls and if you've trained wrestling and everything, even to those people it happens sometimes because there is a great acceleration when somebody wants to take you down. I have to wrap this up. Sorry guys, I cannot do it anymore. My phone is overheating. It just told me that it's overheating, so I have to shut it down. I want to thank you for being here on this live stream, and please let me know in the comments below what else do you want to know. Are there any subjects you want me to talk about, to make a video about, or maybe to again do a live stream? So let me know down there in the comments below, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.